So you're thinking of putting your book up on Kickstarter. How do you know what your costs are going to be, if it's even going to be worth doing that? We're going to explore that in this video. Hi, my name is Vase. I make tabletop role-playing games where defeat scars you and vengeance defines you. I've run 3 successful crowdfunding campaigns for tabletop role-playing game books. And in this series, we are exploring what I've done in order for those to be successful. Hopefully you get something out of it. And today we're going to be doing an overarching view of what I've done to determine my costs before even launching. And that way it helps determine whether the book is worth launching on crowdfunding or not. By far, the most important thing that I have found is knowing your page count. You can't say, I'm going to make a book about dragons, and it could be 100 pages or it could be 400 pages, because there is no quicker way for your crowdsourcing efforts to go under than to undershoot your page count and then be in over your head in terms of costs because of it. So why is page count so important? Well, number one, it's going to determine how much art you're going to need for the book. And by far, one of the most expensive things when publishing a book is art. Now, there are ways to save money on that, and we'll get to that in a future video in the series. But in addition to that, the page count is going to determine your print costs as well as your shipping costs. And I don't just mean shipping to customers, because you can charge your customers shipping, but when you're receiving those books from China or Turkey or wherever it is that you're going to be ordering the books from, those are going to be on a pallet, and every single book is on a box on that pallet. And a 100-page book, you can stack way more of those on a pallet than you can a 400-page book. So it makes a really big difference. But it doesn't just end there. Once you receive the books, if you have a very large amount of books, you're probably going to be hiring a company to do the warehousing and distribution for you. So again, the page count is going to determine the amount of space that's going to take, which could increase your monthly costs. So with that said, your most controllable cost, pre-production cost for the book is actually your ad spend. Regardless of whether your book is 1 page or 10,000 pages, the cost for the ads is going to be about the same. So that's actually a really helpful thing, because your ad spend is going to determine how much money you're going to make. And you can actually kind of predict how much money you're going to make from a Kickstarter by the response to your ads. And again, we're going to get into that in another video in the series. There's a lot to this. There's a business side that if it's not something that you're into, you may want to just publish for the DMs Guild or for free, because this is stuff that in my opinion is very important in order for you to be successful. Now, I just said that ad spend is your most controllable and predictable expense for pre-production of your book. But in reality, there are ways to mitigate the costs of some other factors, such as art. Art is something that you can mitigate if you're strategic with it. And again, there's going to be a video in this series that's going to go really, really deep into that. But just kind of an overview, art costs are very, very high if you're hiring artists for every single piece. So you can mitigate some of your art costs by getting some stock art or public domain art for the smaller pieces or insignificant pieces. Like if you need a piece that's just a sword, I mean, you may not need to hire an artist to draw a sword for you, right? So that can save you a little bit of money. So that's really important to kind of be strategic with that and not just blow money on art, because it can very quickly eat up into your budget. Now, you don't have to spend a ton of money on art initially. You can wait till your project funds before you start spending a ton on art. But one thing that I really recommend that you spend money on in terms of art is A, the cover of the book, and B, marketing pieces. You'll need at least, I would say, 4 to 5 really solid pieces for marketing, so you can run ads using those pieces. And so you do have to spend a little bit on art initially, and that I don't recommend going through public domain or stock art, because people will know that that's what that art is from. So you want to have original pieces that really speak to what your book is about, and put those out there for advertising and promotion and social media and things like that. So your initial costs for that are going to range from, if you hire a really good artist, it's going to range from maybe $200 to over $1,500 for one piece. So keep that in mind. You're going to have 4 to 5 pieces for marketing purposes. So already your initial costs are going to be about $1,000 to maybe $7,000 or $8,000. I don't recommend going on the higher end unless you really want to spend a lot on ads in order to make your book extra successful. So, somewhere in the middle would probably be good. Definitely have an idea in your mind that you're going to spend about, let's say, $1,000 to $3,000 on art, at least initially, for marketing purposes. The next thing you'll need to determine is your print costs. So again, highly recommend that you have the number of pages that your book is going to have. It is much cheaper to have your pages divisible by 16 because the way the printers work, they print in 16-page increments. So if your book is divisible by 16, that is the most ideal page count, but at the very least, have it divisible by 4. So it's a little bit less than if you just make a book with 225 pages. That's going to have a lot of pages that they're going to have to throw away, and it's going to cost you the same amount that it would have cost you if you made a higher amount of pages that is divisible by 16. So keep that in mind. Make it strategic when it comes to that. So in order to determine your printing costs, what you want to do is reach out. That's going to be the best way. Ask for quotes. Reach out to companies on the internet. And I know for some of you, it's really difficult to figure out who even prints, right? Does offset printing. I have a few companies that I've worked with that I can post in the video description. So that'll get you started. But reach out to them, request quotes, and they will get back to you very quickly. Trust me, they're going to want to do business with you. So they'll give you an estimate for printing costs. But when they send you the estimate, they're not going to give you an estimate for the shipping costs in order to get your books landed in your home country. So keep that in mind as well, because the amount of books that you order is going to really determine that shipping cost. So those printers are usually not going to quote you on shipping because they don't know how many copies you're going to actually make, what the weight is, and all that, the amount of space it's going to take. But here's what I recommend. Add, say, $10 to the cost of each book in order to calculate what it's going to cost you to have that book landed. So just to give you some ideas here, if you're on the higher end, let's say a 400-page book, expect the book to cost you between $8 and $15 per book. Add $10 for shipping. So between $18 and $25 landed is going to be the cost of that book. That's not calculating your art costs, okay? If you have a book with a lower page count, say in the high 200s, then you can expect between $6 and about $11 per book. So $16 to $21 per book. So these are things that are just general guidelines if you're having your book printed in China. Shop around. There are very, very high variances in your per book cost. And also there's a very high variance in quality as well. The ones that I'm going to list in the video description are all places that I vetted that are high quality. So if they give you a good price, I would go with one of these printers. Anyways, so now that you've determined what your book costs, let's say you're making a book that costs you, let's say it's 200 and some pages, 280 pages or whatever is divisible by 16, and they quote you $9 per book. So now you already know it's going to cost you $19 per book, right? But you also have to determine your art costs. So how much art are you going to need in the book? Well, you've already done your 5 pieces initially. So one of them's probably going to be the cover, and the other 4 are probably going to be splash pieces within the book. So you saved yourself some there. But what I'd recommend is, my rule specifically is 1 piece of art for every 2 to 3 pages in the book. And by 1 piece of art, I don't mean like a full splash piece. It could be like a character portrait, or it could be like a picture of a sword or a potion or whatever. Something that's visually breaks the monotony of just letters on a page. Something that breaks that every few pages is very important. I wouldn't do every 5 pages. That's way too little art. So you have to calculate your costs in determining that. Now, again, you can save some money by doing some stock art or public domain art, but you do want to at least invest in some decent pieces from artists. Now, these pieces are going to be a little bit less expensive. You're looking at maybe $80 to several $100s for pieces that are not going to be full splash pieces, right? So at least it won't be that expensive, but figure that out. If you have 200 pages, let's just say, then divide that by, say, you want a piece of art every 2 pages, you're looking at about 100 pieces of art minus the 5 you've already done. You're looking at about 95 pieces of art. So calculate your costs with that. That way you have exactly broken down what you need to make from your crowdfunding in order to break even or make a profit for your book. One other thing that you have to consider is warehousing and distribution costs. If you're printing 500 copies, you may be able to handle that yourself with some family members, ship those books out yourself and save yourself some money. Just rent a storage unit for like 30, 40 bucks a month or whatever and get that done. Alternatively, you can hire a warehousing or distribution center for books. I have not hired one myself because my print runs have been 1,000 or less. So I haven't needed to. I've been able to manage it myself. It sucks. It's a lot of work, a lot of time. My next book, Dragons, I expect to be a much bigger book, so I will be researching the cost for that. But my anticipation is that warehousing and distribution is going to be a monthly recurring cost, and more than likely it'll be over $100 a month. So keep that in mind. Make sure that if you're going to be doing that, that you've pre-planned for that expense. Let's say a year, let's say it's $200 a month, a year of that, now you're looking at, $2,500, right? So budget that into what you'll need to do in order to be a successful Kickstarter. And the last expense, the last pre-production expense is going to be your ad costs. So your ad costs are going to vary significantly. I'm going to make a video specifically about advertising and the most effective forms and least effective forms of advertising. But just to give you kind of an introduction to it, don't do YouTube marketing. It's very expensive for very low returns. So don't hire YouTubers, no matter how popular they are. Generally, their fans want to buy stuff that person makes because it's a personality. They want to buy from that personality and do them a favor. They don't necessarily buy. You'll sell some, but you're not going to make your money back. If you hire Jenny D for a 30-second spot, it's going to be $3,000. And those $3,000, you will not make $3,000 in your backers. I can guarantee you, unless your book is very compelling and the title and cover are very compelling, you're probably not going to make that money back. You're more than likely going to lose money. So definitely don't do YouTube marketing. They call it meta ads now. That's going to be your best bet. Google ads, I've had mixed results, but generally Reddit, Google, and those kind of ads are not that you don't get as much of a return on your investment. It's going to be meta ads. So my video on advertising is going to focus mostly on meta ads. But determining your ad costs, there are several different metrics that you want to track, and it's going to take time. So you want to kind of start early and run tests. And when you run tests, and again, we're going to go over this in the marketing video. We're going to deep dive into marketing, very, very deep. I'm going to show you what I do and how I determine what my backers, how much I'm going to get. And literally, it's just a matter of how much I'm willing to invest in advertising, because I know that for every dollar, I'm going to get X amount back from backers based on my advertising metrics. So this is something that I will teach you because it works. It works for me. So I know it'll work for you if you do it right. Anyways, your advertising budget can vary, but I recommend put aside a couple $1,000 for advertising at the bare minimum. You're going to need it. You can't just do social media marketing. It's not going to be enough if you're going to be doing a major print run, offset printing, running a Kickstarter. It's just not going to be enough to do social media marketing unless you have a very big following. And even then, you may not do it. There's some YouTubers with, over 10 or 15,000 followers. And I know that's not huge, but that's a significant amount. And their Kickstarters have failed because they don't spend the money on advertising. They think that their pull or their influence from their YouTube channel is enough, and it's not always enough, right? Famously, and I don't mean to call him out, I like this YouTuber, but famously, Luke Hart, right? I forget his channel's name, but Luke Hart, who's a D&D creator, did a board game and went to Kickstarter with it, and he ended up having to close out the Kickstarter because it wasn't doing the numbers that he thought it would do. So keep that in mind. You have to put aside your advertising budget properly. But also, your advertising, your metrics are going to determine whether your book is even viable, if there's actually interest in it. So you also need to be realistic, right? You need to be realistic on whether your book is compelling, your offer is compelling, and you're going to get enough backers. And the only way to know that is checking your metrics. So another reason why advertising is so important. Anyways, this is just an overview. We're going to be diving deep. I promise. We're going to go into everything you need from art. I'm going to break down cost, different methods of obtaining art, how to be strategic with it. We're going to go into printing costs. We're going to go into advertising costs, and we're going to go into shipping costs and all that kind of stuff. So be ready. It's going to be very business and technical stuff, but hopefully you guys find it useful. And again, my name is Vase from Left for the Vultures. Make sure you feed the vultures, one character at a time.